Happy holidays, everyone. Welcome to my December 12th, 2023 webinar on our inner feral child. I'm very excited to be presenting this webinar because I have with me tonight Tess Posner, and I will introduce her in just a few minutes. But I kind of got the topic from Tess because she wrote a music video, produced a music video that is about the feral child and a wonderful jumping off point for our discussion tonight. Um, the idea of the feral child is not a new one, but the idea of an inner feral child, I think, as a dominant or predominant portion of our inner self, uh, is, I think, quite a new idea. The feral child has been around for a long time. It's been a major interest in psychology, particularly, and sociology, to understand how a child, most likely raised by animals with very little, if any, human contact, might grow up, whether they can acquire language, have language, or could acquire it, and also great concern or interest in their social development, because in the lack of human interaction, then they tend to have interactions with supposedly with the kinds of animals that they've grown up with. If I can just share a screen for a moment, I'm going to see if I can make this work. Pop the there guy up, and then we'll do that. And if I can go now full screen. Hopefully you are now seeing the image of Mowgli, one of the most famous of feral children. Actually, of course, just a piece of literature, a character from Rudyard Kipling, the Jungle Books. But supposedly Mowgli got lost in the woods as a small child of maybe 2 or 3 years of age. Uh, and so he had some exposure to language, but in the story, he does manage to be able to use language. And of course, his adventures were considerable. I'm really, I loved reading Kipling's story long ago, and became familiar with the whole idea that there is a kind of child raised in the wild, often called a wild child, um, and that idea that somewhere inside us is something like that, some kind of feral child within us, and the feral child um, is a beautiful creature in many ways, but not civilized, and often as an inner feral child, um, either hidden away or one that shines through in often very disruptive or antisocial kinds of ways. And we'll be talking about that in a few minutes. What I'd like to do now is, well, I tell you what, I'm going to play the video and then the music video, and then I will introduce Tess, and then she can tell us how she found uh, the inner feral child. So I will again attempt to get the YouTube up here, and that would be somewhere. Oh, there it is. Sorry. Well, you got to get that back. Yeah. Okay, I'm getting messages saying you can't hear the sound, and I thought I had this licked. Let me try one more time. I may not have. I didn't click the button. Okay, I'm going to go back to that. We'll get it. We'll get it back. See, I knew this wouldn't go off without a glitch.
There she is, starving, cold. Her eyes they hold, hollow hurt haunting me. Shallow breath, she says to me, you left me for dead, nothing's left. I'm a part of you. You never knew, but you forgot me too. Oh, please remember why you severed our ties. So then I answered her. Oh, feral child, your hair so tangled, your soul so wild. I'm not whole without you in my heart. I pushed you out. I had to go down so far to meet you where you are. You're lonely and cold, but it's only the dark. I'll hold you through the pain. Promise you it's okay. Couldn't tell you before, now I'm ready and here for you. Oh, feral child, I'm trying to love you again, feed you and clothe you, find my innocence, touch your hair, tell you I'll be there. Your eyes come alive, your beauty, it fills me. You're a part of me I never knew, and I'm broken too. Oh, I remember now, to get better we must be together forever. Oh, feral child, your hair so tangled, your soul so wild. I'm not whole without you in my heart. I pushed you out. I had to go down so far to meet you where you are. You're lonely and cold, but it's only the dark. I'll hold you through the pain. Promise you it's okay. Couldn't tell you before, now I'm ready and here for you. Open sky, I see ahead. I can feel space in my chest. I feel you here with me. Together we are flying wild and free. Oh, feral child, your hair so tangled, our souls intertwined. I'm not whole without you in my heart. I won't push you out. I had to go down so far to meet you where you are. You're lonely and cold, but it's only the dark. I'll hold you through the pain. Promise you it's okay. Couldn't tell you before, now I'm ready and here for you. Oh, feral child. Oh, feral child. Oh, feral child.
Good. Well, we got it across, I hope. Right. Sorry for the little technological glitch. I thought once I had checked the computer sound that the sound would come through, but the check mark had disappeared. So anyway, that's what happened. So let me introduce Tess, and then she can talk about how she discovered her feral child and what all of that meant. Tess Posner is an alternative orchestral pop singer songwriter who takes the listener on a journey into the realms of the subconscious to shine a light on the hidden parts of ourselves left behind. Tess's intimate lyrics and enchanting sonic landscapes invite the listener on a journey inside to self-discovery and healing. She weaves together mesmerizing piano, ethereal synths, and dynamic orchestral elements together with her lush vocal harmonies that lay over a bed of deep-sounding drums and bass. Her 2023 release, Alchemy, represents that process of transmuting painful parts of our past and feeling into the kind of gold that fuels meaning and healing. Taking alchemy as a kind of metaphor for psychological growth, Tess connected each song on the album to correspond with a different element in the medieval system of alchemy. Tess collaborated with multi-platinum award-winning producer and songwriter Bob Wells on Alchemy. Her song on the LP Volcano was a finalist in the U.S. songwriting competition in 2023, and Alchemy reached number 8 on the radio station CHRW 94.9. Tess's past projects have clocked over 3.3 million streams on Spotify and over 1 million views on TikTok. Her music releases have garnered significant press, including the Clash magazine, and there's a whole list of them here, and I'm actually going to not read them all. So with that, I would like to invite Tess to initiate our journey into the feral child. And thank you so much for letting us use your music video.
Yeah, thank you so much. Can you all hear me? Can you hear me,
I hear
David?
you. I hear you. Let's
Okay,
see if the audience makes a response here. I'm watching the chat. Yes, it says yes.
perfect.
Okay, good. Take it away.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much all for being here. It's great to connect with you, and thank you, David, again for inviting me to share this song. I just wanted to share a little bit about how I came about the process of discovering the feral child and writing this song to her. Well, it came at a time in my life when I don't know if any of you can relate to this, but I was very stressed out all the time. I had a very busy job and I was just working nonstop, many, many hours per week. And this was before I was in music full time. And I rarely had space for creativity or free expression. And I encountered the feral child first when I was in a therapy session, actually, and journeying to kind of the source of my stress. Where was this all coming from? Why was I so low energy and stressed out all the time? And what appeared kind of before me was this child, this image of a child that was exactly like a feral child, starving, wild, uncombed hair. She looked terrified and traumatized and neglected, like she hadn't been fed or cared for. And so I wrote in my journal about this encounter that she looked feral. And it was quite shocking at first when I discovered this because I didn't realize that there was this part of me that was so lost and so afraid and so young and also so wild. And it really began this whole exploration and healing with this part of myself that began with sort of bringing just my attention and awareness and eventually love, understanding, and really like listening to her and what she needed. And it ended up being this reunion with this part of me that, because of really all the things in my life at the time, I was not paying any attention to her and sort of ignoring her and neglecting her. And through this process of kind of learning how to listen, love, and care for her, I was able to ignite this reunion. And for me, it really brought back, the sense of freedom, like a connection to nature, and how profound that connection can be, and creativity and free expression that I think I was missing by kind of putting her to the sidelines and not really forging that connection. So I slowly developed this relationship and over time began this kind of reunion process, which was really beautiful. And I eventually wrote this song. The lyrics are basically almost straight transcript from that journal with what she's saying to me and what I'm saying to her, and the process that we went through together. And I really wanted to write it as a way, because this had been so healing for me, can it be a way for others to connect to their inner child in this way as well? So that's really what led me to write the song, and what leads me to be here today.
It's terrific. Wonderful, wonderful. I'm just juggling some of the software. Here we go. So thinking about the development, the creation of a feral child, and I have this sense that on the one hand, it's the creative and naturalistic part of us in touch with the part that's in touch with nature. It's enthusiastic, often fearless, and internally and externally, not much into meeting society's norms. So the hair is often, uncombed, unbrushed. Dirt isn't an issue. Running around barefoot and maybe even for little kids, particularly stark naked, seems to be kind of a norm in terms of their behavior. And inside, there is this wild child. And I'm wondering what happens, what creates that child not being expressed, not being us, so to speak, being alienated or suppressed or put aside or hidden away. And then what happens to it? So you and I have talked a little bit about trauma responses and stuff. Let's talk about where it came from.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me in particular, it's connected to this idea of growing up too quickly. And so let's say in a space you have to maybe see things that you're not supposed to see or take on responsibilities, and the part of you that is that free spirited child sort of becomes relegated. Like you're not allowed to be front and center anymore. You have to be kind of caged away and literally like put into a cage because you don't fit. You have to be an adult, take on these responsibilities. And I think that to your point about trauma responses, there could be different ways that the feral child, responds to that, whatever that traumatic situation is. It could be, to get this like wildness, kind of like an animal where it lashes out. I think that's one response. Or it tries to run away and hide. I think for me, it was very much frozen, this freeze response where it's kind of like doesn't know what to do and it sort of becomes numb. And that is why it sort of appears as starving, because it's not able to be nourished or to be in the world, really. It's sort of like in the basement. And I think for me, there's so many ways that could happen, whether it's in your childhood or later. I think it doesn't even have to be in your childhood, because that part of you is always kind of present inside. So that's just my own personal experience, but I'm curious what you would say, David.
Thank you. I actually found, as I thought about it, that I responded in all three of these stress response modes. I was actually very shy as a child, that kind of freeze response where things would happen and I just didn't do anything, and it just froze up. Sometimes I'd lash out or, be angry or just get into trouble, cause trouble, so to speak, be a nuisance. I had a pretty strong tendency to do that too. And so sometimes I'd be fighting and sometimes I'd be off on my own, just running away from the situation. I was particularly at home in nature, which is kind of natural to a feral child. But I was, at home in nature, and I would spend a lot of time, and I really didn't mind being away from people. It was kind of escape. In my clinical experience, I find that there are adults, but often from their childhood, and I've certainly worked with some children who have shown the feral child kind of, manifesting in their behavior, particularly the more wild part of it, where they're very difficult to discipline, so to speak, that is to shape their behavior. And sometimes they have resulted from very authoritarian kind of parenting. Sometimes they've resulted from neglect, where parents just pay little attention to them and maybe not even really care for them in the physical sense of feeding them and clothing them and keeping them safe. They're just left to run wild. So different kinds of parenting seem to produce the feral child situation. And of course, that also depends. As a pediatrician, I have a lot of experience with the fact that every child is different. Every child is born with some element of personality that can be recognized even right from birth. Some kids are very passive. Some kids are very, uh, irritable and in command and demanding. That's what the word I was looking for, demanding from their environment. And other kids are, kind of in the middle in that regard. But every kid has its own personality. And then the question is, how do parents react to that? And the fact that each child is different, when you have multiple children in a family, you get multiple parents, meaning parents respond to each child in their own unique way because the child's unique. And so there's a dynamic that exists between the child and the adults in its environment. And then, of course, when they get to school, even preschool, then the adults again start to interact with them. And school usually imposes all kinds of restrictions on activity. That's not always true. But oftentimes, it's like the group is going to do things together, and there's a certain amount of orderliness imposed on the class situation, on the group situation. And you've got kids who just can't handle that. I've also seen a situation, and many times, and it disturbs me often, when kids will say to me, "My parents don't understand me. They don't get me. I feel like a stranger in a strange land in my own home." It's not that they're not always ignored, but it's like they're just not in sync with their parents in any way. They feel foreign. And I think that's one of the most challenging things for the inner child, that developing personality, is to find that they don't get the feedback, they don't get the acceptance, they don't get the understanding that helps a child to thrive and to be its own person. So what happens when a feral child or when the inner child like that, manifesting all that creativity and dynamism and enthusiasm for life and love of nature, finds a welcoming environment, they move out of a situation where, I've meant to say, one of the things that makes a feral child or develops that feralness in a child are parents that hover, right? The opposite of the ones that ignore or just don't get their kid, or the parents who are really involved in their kid. We call them helicopter parents. They're hovering over their kid, and they never set them free. And there's a whole movement developing now to teach parents to allow their children to do something that, frankly, I'm going to say it not the way they say it, but the way I like to say it, is something that terrifies the parents, something the kid wants to do that they haven't let the kid do. And that may be simply walking down the sidewalk to a neighbor's house, or crossing the street, or going to a neighborhood store and buying something. These kinds of activities, for depending on different ages. But letting kids do this at ages that most, or many parents at least, particularly helicopter parents, don't feel comfortable allowing their kid to do. And when the kid wants to do things and is told that's dangerous, you can't do that, the fear of the parents gets transferred to the child. And that helps to create a situation where where the inner child is suppressed and becomes that feral child. It's not at home in the environment. It can't express itself. It knows it can't express itself, or it will do so in ways that often bring criticism and judgment and discipline upon the child. So that free range child was defined long ago. Now I'm going to pray that this shows up. We're going to try a screen share here again and click on that and share that and do full screen. And in case you can't read that, I will attempt to. This is obviously a Doonesbury cartoon where you hear a voice off the frame. Dinner's ready, and I can't remember the character's name. It's been too long since I read Doonesbury. It says, where are those two? They better not still be out at the quarry. And so mom calls, Mom, Danny, where are you two? It's after 6. You guys want unsupervised play after school. You have to hold up your end of the deal. With freedom comes responsibility. You can see the style of parenting here. Got it, Danny? And then the question comes over the phone. Mom says, what? Where do we live? Virginia. Why? And you see them, and the 2 kids are in a police car now. And the younger kid says, we're free range kids. And the cop just sort of goes, no kidding. So I'm going to turn that off. There we go. So the free range child grows up in a more authoritative environment, one where the parents are involved, but not hovering, not overly controlling, or just offering guidance and offering just pointers or insights, being authorities, but not authoritarian, not trying to order people around. Almost all parents, at least at some times, try to order their kids around. And surprisingly, it usually doesn't work. And of course, the stronger the personality of the child and the more that inner child, creative child, the feral child, if you will, or free range child, inner free range child expresses itself, the more there's that kind of going head to head with the child. It's time for us to go. I don't want to go. I want to play. I want to do whatever I'm doing. And no, we so I see parents adopt the thing. Well, okay, you have 5 minutes. I'm timing it. Okay. And that often works, because then you go like 1 minute, and then you go like, okay, time's up. Now we have to move on. And so parents wind up having to negotiate, so to speak, with that inner little being, that little dynamo who is so powerful and knows what they want and asserts themselves, and really comes across that way. Tess, you want to say anything more before we move on to the how we deal with the situation, how we deal with the isolation of the feral child?
Well, one thing just to add to that, and so well
Mm-hmm.
said, is that I think it's something that I really found too, is that the connection to nature, or like this bigger container, can be super helpful in the healing process. Because if you don't necessarily have, like, ideally people would have that kind of setup with the parents, but let's face it, a lot of people don't, and there's nothing we can do to go back and change that. So I think that idea of kind of looking at nature as the mother for the feral child, like, how do we connect that part of ourselves to something bigger, and that can kind of provide what maybe wasn't there potentially as children, and that there are these resources to tap into. So I'm sure that leads into what you're about to do next, but I just wanted to add that was really helpful for me in my own process. And even like how I shot the video was sort of a creative representation of that, where it's like this idea of being part of something bigger that has a lot of space for that free range child to be freed and to kind of get that spacious exploration and freedom that it longs for.
It really does. The craving is very strong, but at least in my clinical experience, I found that there's often a lot of resistance, both from the feral child. It does not trust the world. It does not trust its parents. Uh, it can't count on the world, and so it's very hard, I think, sometimes to. And I find in my work, what we do is we sit with that feral child without making any demands on it, without expecting it to be in any particular way. And then maybe as things begin to evolve a little bit, it starts to open up perhaps a little bit, lets itself be known a little bit, that we can ask it what it wants from us, how it wants us to be with it. What does it need from us as a person, right? Because this is a part of our inner personality. And so when we watch it from that point of view of the witnessing value of our own consciousness, and we look at it and see what it needs, and ask it, when we ask it what it needs, we're letting it define the moment rather than saying, I see that you need this. I saw a marvelous example of this just a couple of days ago. My my daughter was out of town, and I had my granddaughter, and we were out at the park, and one of her friends was there with her mother, and so there came a moment when my granddaughter ran over to the other mother and said, "I need a cuddle." And of course, the woman, they were well acquainted, and they cuddled for a few moments, and then granddaughter ran off. And I thought, well, that was really sweet, and the way the woman responded and everything. And afterwards, I thought about it a little bit, and I thought she recognized her own need. And so what I was talking about here in terms of how we work with a feral child who doesn't trust is we allow them to recognize their own need. We just give them the space to do it and the assurance given to them that we are here for them and we're going to stay. We're not going to run away. We're not going to suppress them anymore. And then they begin to find they can express what they need, seek it out, we give it to them. And that's, to me, is a big part of that dynamic. Being out in nature is a wonderful thing, having lots of experiences, opportunities. The feral child gets a chance to blossom. And in that, they also become more appreciative, more empathetic to the adult world. And they can interact with it and become comfortable in it and be happy in it and accept that there are some boundaries. And yes, the adults are adults, they lead, but the child is not led all the time. The child is not on a leash. They're not hovering over the child. The parents are not hovering over the child. The child has opportunity. And the more opportunity kids have to do everything, literally everything, participate, doing the washing the dishes, making food, preparing meals, and just everything, all these different things that they can do. It can be very surprising to some parents how capable their children are. They just never really realized what they were capable of. Or if you're watching it, as I get to by babysitting my granddaughter, see how those capabilities develop. And just through opportunity, let's do this, let's do that. You see more insight, more understanding, and then more creativity, starting to use all the things that they're learning, be able to function, to be able to get out in the world and really enjoy life, truly enjoy life and spontaneity, as you were telling us you have been doing since you gave up your business job and turned fully into music. There was a term that we used. There's a kind of ancient wisdom that we see in the free-range child, a sense of knowingness. It's like moving into the world is easy for them. It's not frightening. It's very easy for them, and they're eager to explore the world. They come forth with this this sense of understanding. It's like they can see right into new things. It's this instinctual intelligence, which is so valuable in a world where most of us have lost a close connection with nature. We just don't spend a lot of time in nature. And, when that is allowed to the child, when they're given those opportunities to experience nature, that really helps them feel at home in the world. And so that feral child becomes that free range child, at least in my vision, that the free range child is the one who's really grown into the world and can function in the world. And again, I switch back and forth kind of between seeing a child as a free range child and being or feeling into the inner free range child that's exploring everything and themselves, their own development, and watching that happen. And anyway, I have lots of stories, but we've gone on fairly long. Tess, do you have anything else you want to share with us?
No, this is great. Thank you so much.
Very good. Okay, I think we covered the evolution of the free range child and the feral child. We talked about the trauma responses. Yeah, I think we got it all. So what I'd like to do here in conclusion to this part of the program is to play the video again, if I can now juggle all my technology and see if I can make this work. And we'll play that one more time. It's here. And now the check boxes are checked the way they're supposed to be. I don't know what happened. And we will blow that up. Come on, here we go.
There she is, starving, cold, her eyes they hold, hollow hurt haunting me, shallow breath, she says to me, you left me for dead, nothing's left, I'm a part of you, you never knew, but you forgot me too, oh. Please remember why you severed our ties. So then I answered her, oh, feral child, your hair so tangled, your soul so wild. I'm not home without you in my heart. I pushed you out. I had to go down so far to meet you where you are. You're lonely and cold, but it's only the dark. I'll hold you through the pain, promise you it's okay. Couldn't tell you before, now I'm ready and here for you. Oh, feral child, I'm trying to love you again, feed you and clothe you, find my innocence, touch your hair, tell you I'll be there. Your eyes come alive, your beauty, it fills me. You're a part of me I never knew, and I'm broken too. Oh, I remember now, to get better we must be together forever. Oh, feral child, your hair is so tangled,
Very good. Very good. So if anyone has any questions, you can either put them in the chat or the Q&A. It's nice if you put them in the chat. And I think both Tess and I will see them. We'll give you just a couple moments to type there. Let everybody know that the next webinar will be in February. I'm taking off a couple of weeks in January. It won't be available. So we'll go to February. It'll be February 13th, which is the second Tuesday. So you might care to make a note of that. And you'll all hear about that. That's going to be on managing karma. And I'm going to share some insights that I've gained over the last few months in helping people deal with some karma that's actually, for most of them, very intense. So, not seeing. The question is Tess the singer? Yes, Tess is the singer. Very much so. Singer and songwriter. Okay, it's been wonderful, folks. Again, thank you to Tess Posner for joining me tonight and just expressing so very clearly and beautifully what the feral child is, how she found it, and how we can integrate that feral child and make it a major part of us. Okay.